to our return in late January for another round of this. Thank you.
The Honourable Grant Robertson.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Speaker. On the night of the 1st of August, I sat in my office upstairs here in Parliament House in a complete state of shock and some sense of terror. It was the day in which Andrew Little had resigned as the leader of the Labour Party and Jacinda Ardern had been elected. I want to say, as Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister, did earlier today, what I think was one of the most courageous acts in politics that I have seen, which was Andrew Little deciding to step aside as the leader. It was an extremely difficult decision for him, one I know that he anguished over, and I just want to reiterate what I've said in public before again, that I regard that as one of the most selfless things I've seen, and I know that Andrew is going to be a magnificent Cabinet Minister and will show leadership in a way that others haven't from that role and what he did then. It was also not all that long that night after Jacinda Ardern had given her first press conference in the Legislative Council chamber, which I think if anyone ever on any side of the House in politics wants to look at how you handle a pretty difficult situation, Jacinda did a magnificent job that day. And as the Prime Minister of New Zealand, she has shown what many of us knew for a long time. This was a person of character, of intelligence, of humour, and of deep empathy. And to me, they are the characteristics of what makes a great leader in politics, and we are seeing that every single day. And I, as someone who has known her as a friend for many, many years, want to say I am so proud of that and so proud that she is leading our country. When I was sitting in the office that night on the 1st of August, I read an article which said, by a journalist, that said that it was complete madness that the Labour Party had decided to change leaders 7 weeks out from election, and it would not be possible for us to win the election from that position, but maybe we might save I'll come to that, we might save the furniture. And it got me thinking about a song that I knew, which I liked very much, which was Tim Finn's song, It Couldn't Be Done. And I played it in the office. And while I was sitting listening to it, the Honourable Chris Hipkins came into my office. And I turned the sound up, and there's a line in the song which says, "They said it couldn't be done. And we had no idea that it couldn't be done, and we needed to find a like-minded someone who had no idea that it couldn't be done." Well, Mr Speaker, the Labour Party was lucky to find two like-minded someones who didn't believe that it couldn't be done, and that was the New Zealand First Party and the Green Party. And I want to acknowledge both of those parties for joining in a coalition agreement that does not believe that we should be satisfied with the status quo and does not believe that it can't be done. In fact, we believe the opposite, Mr Speaker. We believe that there is so much more that New Zealand can do, and that we can do that together. We come from different traditions, but we have a shared belief that this country is a great place and it can be better still. And so I want to acknowledge the Right Honourable Winston Peters and all of the members of the New Zealand First Caucus for the decision that they made to join in this government, and to the Green Party of Aotearoa for joining along in a confidence and supply agreement to make the big changes that we've already heard spoken about by both the leaders of New Zealand First and the Labour Party today. Someone on the other side interjected just before and said, "You didn't win. You didn't win the election." There was, in my mind, the greatest civics education exercise of New Zealand's life on Facebook, the steak and cheese pie post. And I will run through it briefly, Mr Speaker, because I think it's important to get it on the record of Hansard, and I'm a person who likes the odd steak and cheese pie. Too many, I know you think that, Mr Speaker. But the steak and cheese pie theory goes a little bit like this. Bill goes to the shop and there's one pie left in the shop, steak and cheese, and it costs $5. And Bill's got $4.40, so not quite enough to buy the pie. Then Jacinda walks into the shop and she's got $3.70. And she looks around and there's Winston Peters and he's got 90 cents. And he says, "I'm going to add that to go to $4.60. And then James Shaw arrives and he says, "Well, I've got 80 cents. And suddenly Jacinda's got enough money to buy the steak and cheese pie. Now Bill's still in the shop and he looks around and he sees David, but David's only got 5 cents, so he can't help. So he can't help. Yeah. That's true, Simon Bridges. He hasn't even got 5 cents, but that's right. He has no sense at all. So, Mr. Speaker, at that point, Jacinda and Winston and James can buy the pie. That's MMP, Mr. Speaker, because you've got to work together and you've got to have friends. And of course I'm going to talk about pies, Simon Bridges. What do you expect? So, Mr. Speaker, New Zealanders actually get MMP. They actually understand that it requires to have a majority of the seats in this House. And I am extremely proud, as a person who campaigned for MMP in the early 1990s, to see a genuinely MMP government that is working together and cooperating together. Mr. Speaker, I want to wish everybody who works in this complex a very, very Merry Christmas. Every single part of the operation that makes Parliament work is incredible. There are selfless people who work overtime to make sure that we as politicians and MPs can do our jobs. I want to mention just one particular part of that organisation. It's not one I've always been favourable about, and that is the people who work in Copperfields in the cafeteria. The people themselves are great. The food's not fantastic. That's right. Jerry's not here, Simon. I have to do this. But I want to pay tribute because tomorrow the staff who work there on behalf of that particular caterer will no longer work there. And I want to pay tribute to them. I want to mention Mohammed, who will probably watch this speech on Facebook from Egypt, and I want to say I want to wish him all the best for this time of year. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to acknowledge those people who, when their job changes, when their employer changes, it's difficult. And I want to say thank you to all of those people here. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all of the partners, spouses and significant others and families of MPs. They do it tough. And especially now, those of us who've had the transition into government recognise that it's even tougher for families when people become ministers. They deserve all of our thanks, and for the next few weeks, I hope all of us get to spend time with those people, tell them how much we love them and enjoy Christmas. Merry Christmas to one and all, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker. David Seymour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.